everyone. Welcome back to Raw Synergy TV. This is such an exciting day for me today. I'm so happy because I am talking with my absolute best and dearest friend, John from Raw Alchemy. We are sitting down today and having a conversation about all kinds of things, from his juice fast to life, spirituality, and everything that we in our hearts just feel like sharing today. And this is something that I've wanted to create for a long time because I have a handful of friends that are so special to me. And we often have these amazing phone conversations or video conversations. And afterward, I always think to myself, gosh, I wish I had recorded that because it was so good. And so finally, we're getting a chance to do that today. And I'm so happy and so honored that my friend John here is with me today to share this conversation. John, we're doing this. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited too, Alicia. Yep. It's been a while in the making here, but finally, everything lined up and here we are. Super excited about it.
I'm so honored that you, of all people, are the first to be sitting here with me having a conversation like this one specifically that we're going to have today. So this is amazing.
Cool. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's an honor on my behalf too, because I think back 11 years ago when I first discovered raw living foods and this entire lifestyle. And before we had ever connected, your channel was one of the most instrumental in my transition, actually. So I just think it's kind of beautiful how everything unfolded and how here we are today. You know, I don't know. I feel like I've successfully transitioned at this point. And when I was going through some of the most challenging parts, like through detox, for example, your earlier videos from like 10 years ago spoke volumes to me and really helped me get to where I am today. So it's a complete honor. And I'm just so grateful for everything, and especially our friendship over the years and everything. So yeah, thank you so much, Alicia. It's amazing to be here with
Ah,
you right now, actually. Yeah, it's
that's
awesome.
so fun. Thank you. I feel exactly the same way. I just adore our friendship, and I'm so grateful that we have maintained this connection and connected in the first place. So I'm so honored.
Likewise, yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing that I really wanted to talk about, I mean, you inspired me to do the juice cleansing this year, and you just completed 230 days of juice cleansing, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And I thought if you could share a little bit about that journey, like one of the first things that I want to know or want you to share with people, why you decided to embark on the juice cleanse.
Yeah, well, it's such an interesting story, but it didn't feel like a conscious decision on my part. That's the amazing thing about it. And even right now, I'm looking back and it almost doesn't feel real. Like, did I really go that long on juice? And right now, I couldn't imagine even going a week on juice because I'm enjoying, eating like the full rainbow spectrum of my raw vegan diet that I'm enjoying right now. But like, I truly believe that these things just happen to us. There comes a time for some people where their body is ready to cleanse and detoxify, and that may take a different shape or form. Sometimes it's a mono fruit cleanse, sometimes it's water fasting. In my case, this juice this juice feast snuck up on me, and you know yeah, it was a few months of slowly transitioning lighter and lighter, higher liquids, more smoothies, more juices, more fruit mono meals, and less overt fats, less greens, no cooked foods throughout that. It was actually a 4-month period. And then one day, I distinctly remember waking up and I just knew that in the prior, days, weeks, and months, I always felt my best in the morning with the juices and the lighter. I start from like the lightest meal of the day and work my way up into the more dense foods. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, I feel so great in the mornings. And I'm usually starting my day with like, 3 32-ounce juices. Like, let's just do all juice today. And I wasn't a complete stranger to juice feasting. I had a 14-day juice feast a couple of years prior. That was amazing. Probably one of the best time periods of my life as far as how I felt and how spiritually connected I was at the time. And I had done maybe 1 or 2 7-day juice feasts, and I had done some mono fruit cleanses too. So I had an idea of what it feels like to do it, and what the experience is like, and I had a little bit of practice. But I promise I did not intend to do an extremely long, extended juice feast like that. I mean, to me, that's a very long juice feast. It was about 7.5 months. And I don't even want to use the word extremely because it didn't feel extreme at all. It felt like the most natural thing in the world to me. It felt like a calling of my body and a calling of my spirit to do it. And it happened absolutely effortlessly. Everything seemed to align. Like I had the time and space. I had, the financial means to buy that much produce every week. And not that it costs a tremendous amount more than like my regular diet did, but um, it was just a really good time period. Even my current job allowed me to easily bring my juices to work and sip on them throughout the day. Like everything seemed to allow for it to happen. And so yeah, it's funny. It wasn't a conscious predetermined choice. But by day like 21, I would say I had a really, really strong sense that, oh boy, I think I'm gonna go a really long time on juice here. And so it was, it ended up being very long. So yeah, there was no like urgent like health concern or anything like that. Although I do feel like I was carrying around quite a bit of waste in my system, regardless of my relatively high raw plant-based lifestyle for the past 11 years now. It was still probably like at least 10 to 15 pounds of waste that I feel really wanted to leave my body. And it definitely took care of that. And it was a beautiful journey every step of the way. But yeah, it was almost like something my subconscious mind, my subconscious soul, like my soul chose more so than my conscious mind did. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that I really want to talk to you about because you're one of my favorite people to talk about spirituality and really tuning in to what's happening on the inside and how to listen to that. So I think that's something that would be really helpful for people to hear from you. Like, how does somebody, from your perspective, how does somebody tune in to that guidance? Just that guidance for one thing, but then that guidance to decide, hey, what is my body needing right now? Like, can you kind of walk people through your process of that?
Yeah, it's not very scientific or complicated at all. I really think it comes down to simply, it was my intention. It's always my intention to be tuned into my heart and soul. I just feel blessed. I feel like early on in life, by the time I was like 20 years old, I, I kind of I kind of just felt like life, I don't, you know, life it unfolds at its best, and it's best lived when we're in alignment with our hearts. Like our heart is our compass. So I would have to say every single day of my life, there's this underlying intention to, even when it comes down to these words I'm sharing right now, to line up with my heart, my soul, and let that kind of come forth, and let that lead the way for me. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like it simply comes down to intention. um, I feel like I haven't, it's probably been a year or two, I haven't sat down and consciously tried to meditate or anything like that. I do feel like every day is kind of a walking meditation for me, and I'll do things like take a walk, um, or when I go and kind of sunbathe. I really like to do that at least a few times a week. Just allows sun to I don't know, merge with my body. I don't know how else to put it, but it feels incredible to be outside in the sunshine. And those feel like meditations to me. I'll kind of get little insights come streaming down to me, or bright ideas, or even visions sometimes. But So yeah, but it's not like I really don't try very hard. It's pretty effortless. And again, I think it's just my intention to be in a certain state, a joyful state, and an aligned state, and a loving state, and a kind state, things like that. And I think that just trickles down into my everyday kind of activities, you know?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And that's one of the things I love about you so much because you're so tapped into your heart. Like, and you can really feel that from you. Like, I think that's one reason why John and I are so drawn to your energy is because you're just so tapped into your heart center and you live from that space. And it's so beautiful. And I think everybody can feel that from you. And that's why we're all so drawn to you and we want to know more from you.
Oh, thank you, Alicia. First of all, you and John put that same energy out there. That's why we're all amazing friends. So thank you for doing the same. I can tell you guys set similar intentions deep down, and because yeah, it's absolutely mutual.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and recently we both were kind of talking about through when we were texting, we were talking about um I forget exactly what you called it. I think you called it like a yes energy. It was something that we talked about that we both kind of picked up from Oprah, like that when we tune in to what feels right is was it a yes energy? Was that what we called it?
Yeah, it was.
I'm
I remember
blanking
back
now.
in the day, my mom was a huge fan of Oprah, and I walked in one afternoon and she was watching like Super Soul Sunday, probably. And Oprah was sharing one of her greatest life lessons. And she said it was basically the way she put it, if I remember correctly, she said, one of the things I've learned is that when I'm trying to make a decision, when there's any doubt, she said, I don't. So when in doubt, don't. And she uses that as kind of a guidepost to help her make big decisions in life, or even, any decision. And when there's that little bit of static, a little bit of misalignment, there's a reason for it. So it's not really like an 100% green light, like move forward in that area, maybe not at that time. So yeah, that's what it was, I believe, if I recall.
Yes, that's what exactly what it was. I love that. And I have listened to that too over the years because it really, really helps. And so it's kind of like that thing, like when tuning into whether you should do the juice cleanse or not. It's like you were tuning in kind of to that energy, and there was just literally no doubt for you. It was just like green lights all the way. I'm doing this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it went on like that for probably 5 out of the 7.5 months. There was not there was not a doubt in my mind that my body didn't, basically my body wanted only juice. It didn't want fiber. 100%. It wanted me to continue and just carry on. And it seemed absolutely 100% satiating to me. I was absolutely at peace with it, feeling incredible the whole time. And then about, yeah, I would say 5 months in, day 150 or so, I started to have my thoughts about food and reintroducing fiber into my system shifted. And my body started to tell me, I mean, by then, it's hard to express in words how dialed in you are with your body after a cleanse like this or an experience like this, but it's very clear. And it's almost like you're having a conversation with your body on a day-to-day basis. It's telling you exactly, at least for me, it was telling me exactly what to juice, exactly how much to make, exactly how much to drink, how to tweak it a little bit, what to add. I would accentuate like my pineapple juices, after the first few months with like peaches and nectarines and different, even mango a little bit. I've played around with like juicing. So like it's almost like a little I don't know, it was like a prescription almost from my body to what I feel was to give me the exact nutrition that it desired, and also the right types of fruits with the astringent and cleansing properties to cleanse out my specific digestive system, my body. Um, but yeah, around 5 months in, it started letting me know, you know, you're doing incredibly well. You're probably gonna you can start reintroducing fiber soon. Not yet, but soon. And it gradually increased. I always describe it as like a seesaw. Like at one point, it was 100% tilted towards zero fiber and juice. It lasted about 5 months, and then it started to shift, and the seesaw turned. And by the time I broke, it was just about 100% on the other side, where my body was like, it's kind of over the juices and it looked forward to fiber. And I could still say more than two or three juices a day, wouldn't be enjoyable to me right now. It's enjoying a few juices to kind of break my nightly fast, and then it likes to go into my smoothie for lunch, like a giant 72-ounce smoothie, and then maybe a smaller mono meal of fruit before my like dinner salad, or like, usually just a low to moderate fat raw vegan meal that I prepare. And it's been like that every single day, and I'm thoroughly like deeply enjoying that ever since. And it's like the juice switch was just like turned off, and now my body's like, I've got friends who are currently juicing and they're feeling incredible, and part of me kind of misses those juice vibes and being that ultra connected feeling. But honestly, on a low to moderate fat, a fruit-based raw vegan lifestyle, you're pretty darn connected anyway. So I feel really great, and also satiated, and just really enjoying this lifestyle too. So it's beautiful. I mean, yeah, both sides of that coin have been really beautiful. But
Nice. When you first started juicing, you were working one job or two at that time?
one.
And then it moved to how many jobs
It was
you're
really,
working?
I guess it was really funny. At one point it was three, one was on call though, but I really just filled up my schedule. I had so much energy, Alicia. I mean, I'm a high energy guy anyway. On juice, it was like I was dialed up to 11. I had so much energy. I didn't need as much sleep. I mean, even still on my current lifestyle and diet, raw vegan here, I can go 3 or 4 hours of sleep and multiple nights in a row and perform like close to 100%. After, if it goes any more than a couple days, 2 or 3 days like that, obviously I want to catch up on sleep. But it's amazing how the closer we are in alignment with what I feel is our species specific or ideal ultimate diet and lifestyle, the better we perform. So I just started performing so well. The idea of like watching Netflix or anything else, stuff that I used to do semi regularly, just fell way into the background. I swear I didn't watch a drop of like, all I watched was like YouTube videos still, primarily like juice feasting videos, or just like my favorite raw vegan channels, and really inspiring type of content, stuff that aligns with like my sole purpose in life, I feel. But it was incredible how quickly it reprioritized, my desire for certain activities, and just everything in my life, really. But so yeah, I ended up with like officially like three jobs, but really it was two, and then one I was on call. But I was averaging 45 to 55 hours a week throughout most of my juice feast, and spending more time than usual at grocery stores, just sourcing the best quality fruits and veggies and greens, mostly fruits though, and spending more, I can't say more time in the kitchen because I'm spending just as much, if not more time now, playing around with recipes and stuff. But I was spending a solid 2 to 2.5 hours a day on average with my juices. But that also is one of those times where it was like a meditation to me. Like I enjoyed being in the kitchen. I would have something inspiring playing on my phone, or sometimes I would just be in silence with my fruit and veggies, and just kind of I don't know, just be with them, and to tune into myself as far as like what exactly to juice, and how to put my juices together, and how many to make and stuff like that. I don't know, my time in the kitchen's really precious and I really enjoy it. But yeah, so it was interesting. I also tried, I continued to work out. The first couple of months it was absolutely no problem, especially my calisthenic based workouts back then. And then there became certain workouts my body wanted me to go easy. I could just tell like my heart would be beating faster, or like a little harder than usual. And so my intuition was like, well, take it easy. You don't want to do too much like external activity because your body has a lot going on internally right now. So my body was quick to remind me of that. So the workouts ended up kind of phasing out, or not phasing out entirely, but lessening. And but that became I got into really such a groove where it was just, I was either sourcing my produce throughout my town in my free time, soaking up some sunshine, or getting out there in nature, or I was in the kitchen prepping my juices, or I was at work, or I was trying to follow through on a workout, or getting my sleep. Like that pretty much encompassed my whole life, and I loved it. It was absolutely beautiful, but it was a very focused 7.5 months for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of sourcing produce, do you know approximately how much you spent per day or week on produce during your cleanse?
Yeah, definitely. I've been asked a few times and I've done the math, and on average, I would say about 200 a week. There were some weeks where I shopped a little heavier the week before and it was only 150. There were weeks where I went through more produce, or maybe a couple of melons were, spoiled when I cut them open, which is so, terribly painful to experience. But it's so sad when that happens. But so there are weeks where I definitely spent 225, 250. Um, and there were, at least days where I went on like really high on melons and stuff where it was, so basically when it's 200 a week, you're looking at like almost like, I don't know, 25 to $30 a day. And that to me was about half organic, half not. I was kind of selective about what I bought organic. And I was buying like for example, one store has pineapples and they're like $2 or two and change per pineapple, but they're way more green. And like one of my other favorite grocers in the area has pineapples that are $4 a piece, but they're like yellow, golden, orange, beautiful. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would splurge, I figured like I owed it to my body to, at least if I'm going as kind of minimal and streamlined as just primarily fruit juices and juice only, then I'm going to go for like the highest quality, most delicious produce I can find. So I did splurge a little bit in that regard. So I could have saved a little money if I wasn't as particular, because believe it or not, when you're juicing, that's one of the reasons it's easier than people think. You don't have to have perfectly ripe fruit. It's not the same as eating it. You still want, actually, and some juice doesn't go through your juicer as well if it's perfectly ripe or even slightly overripe. It'll kind of mush up in there and clog up the
Mm-hmm.
juicer. So a little underripe's almost better in some regards. But so yeah, but that's basically it. 25 to 30 a day, about 200 a week on average. But just know, everyone, like if you want to go on a budget, especially for shorter cleanses, you just do like watermelons, especially in the summer. I've had $5 watermelons down here in Florida that yielded like 10 to 12 32-ounce juices for $5, guys.
It's
So
amazing.
it can be one of the least expensive cleanses that you can do. You know what I mean? If you go the melon route, which I wouldn't recommend doing that for 7.5 months. It really felt right to have a couple of green juices at least per week and a nice wide variety of fruit and nutrients coming into my body. But definitely for like 3 days, one day, up to a week, maybe even you can just juice melons. It's kind of like Banana Island. It's a really great budget way to reset your digestive system.
Definitely. What was your what was your all-time favorite juice that you juice? Like as far as maybe like a combo goes, what was your favorite
Yeah.
combo or a couple of combos?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess there's like four juices that are my core juices that carried me through my entire juice feast. And it really, aside from the first week to week and a half where I was experimenting a bit and I was trying every juice in the book, I learned really quickly what my body was asking me for, and kind of like that prescription I was describing. And I really, especially the three fruit juices, they're like my angels. I call them like my juice angels, because they kind of healed me in so many ways. And I love all of them, honestly. I really do. I would have to say, so watermelon and lemon is simple classic morning juice for me. I had one this morning. I have them most days. I feel almost incomplete without that. And sometimes I'll do watermelon lime or sometimes just straight watermelon, but
How
that
much
might have,
lemon do you put in?
I'll usually, yeah, for one whole melon, depending on the size, 1 to 2 lemons per
Okay.
melon. Some melons are like smaller, like, you know, I don't know how many pounds, 7 to 10 pounds, and some are like 20, 30, 40, big. We get some large melons down here.
Yeah.
If it's a large melon, definitely it'll be a couple lemons. And
Okay.
but generally one, like 1 to 1, one melon, one lemon. And I don't know, that's probably one of my go-tos. I honestly, if I did the math, I juiced a melon about, I don't know, I forget how I did it, but I did the math and it was about 100 watermelons that that I ran through my body over the juice feast. I probably juiced 100 watermelons throughout that time. I was averaging like 45 pounds of apples per week. Um, one pineapple a day. You know, I always juiced a lime with my pineapple juice. But so one was like my watermelon lemon, I would say. That may have to be the number one because it's just so good to me every morning. That with the sunshine is like my favorite combo. What a great way to start the day. And I'll usually do at least two of those, sometimes three. Um, my second, which was a really, really powerful juice, it really made me feel connected and dialed in, was my pineapple apple lime juice.
Mm.
I really, really love that one. And for that to make two 32-ounce juices, it would be one pineapple and about 10 or 12 apples. And I'll kind of feel it out. Sometimes they're green apples, sometimes red apples, different varieties. Um, and then a lime. And sometimes I would do two limes if they're small limes, but I really love that. It was like so energizing. It felt very cleansing. There were times where that really kind of got everything flowing. As far as like, you know, at a certain point, your bowel movements start to slow down on a juice feast, and that would be one of the juices that really kind of would stimulate one. And my third kind of dinner juice was grape. It was either just grape and lemon, like specifically red grapes and lemon, or sometimes I would do grape, apple, lemon. So, and that was like, so I also went through about 3 pounds of grapes every day on average. So, yeah, like what, 21 pounds of grapes every week. So lots of produce. It was simple. I would just find the best source of like grapes and just go big and buy like 7 boxes, you know, 7 containers of them or 7 bags. Usually I would buy more. I would usually try to get like 9 days worth at a time on my days off. So I would go to the store and I would usually get a little more than a week because it would be a week before I could come back and have like a full day usually. Because I was averaging like working 6 days a week throughout the juice feast. So on that one day off, I would be at 2 or 3 grocery stores usually. And yeah, that was, yeah, my red grape lemon juice is amazing. And I would do the same. I would kind of have one like 3 pounds of grapes, which is like the average size bag usually, with about 10 to 12 apples and one lemon, and that would make like two 32-ounce juices. But once in a while, I was in the mood for like to make it a little stronger and just do grapes and lemons. So I would up the lemon a little bit and just go through like 2 bags of grapes and to make like two 32-ounce juices. But that was I've heard that grapes are one of the more calorie dense juices, and it did feel that way. That's why I guess it slid into like that dinner slot. It's a little heavier. Still, it's a great, you know, grapes are extremely, you know, they're very cleansing, especially with lemon. I felt like that was a great combination. And that was pretty much it. I averaged about 7 juices per day. Um, you know, early on it was more 8 was the average, and a couple of days I went as high as 9 32-ounce juices, and the lowest was like generally like 6 on a busy day. But my calories and the amount of juice I drink stayed pretty even keeled throughout the entire juice feast. um so yeah, I did do about 2 lemon ginger blasts or green juices a week on average, and there were periods I tried to go heavier on the green juices, but my body really didn't want any more than that. So it was like every few days I'd start to crave a little bit of celery and assorted greens, and I would make some kind of, you know, some variation on a lemon ginger blast. You know, I liked lemon. I like putting a little jalapeno so it's slightly spicy. I like them sweet. So even though I'm juicing my greens and stuff and adding some cilantro, some parsley, I would use like kale or spinach usually, and usually it was apple that sweetened them up, but I would make them quite sweet. Usually sweeten them up with apple or pineapple. And I did enjoy them. I felt like they were necessary, but it was way less than the fruit juices, which I found interesting in my case on juice. Yeah. So
Nice.
those are all kind of my favorites. If I had to choose one, it's really tough to. It's like they're like my children almost. Like you can't you can't just choose one, but the one that I drink the most juice of is the watermelon lemon juice. So generally though, every day, this has been going on for years, even when I was raw till dinner, I have to start my day with juice or at the very least a hydrating fruit meal. Like I will just, if I'm gonna eat, if I'm in a hurry, for example, and I didn't juice the night before, I'll just quickly chop up a watermelon, throw it in some containers, and throw up some lemon wedges in there, and I'll have the same thing, but I'll eat it, which I equally enjoy. Sometimes I enjoy that even more when the watermelon's like excellent. So yeah, watermelon and lemon for some reason probably the one I have to go with.
Nice. It sounds so good.
Yeah.
So delicious.
Mm.
As far as like how you were feeling during the juice cleanse, you had so much energy to work all day and you were like the Energizer Bunny. What other things did you notice about what was happening with you on the juice cleanse? Like, what are some other things that you experienced?
Well, for sure, that that body mind kind of awareness connection was just went into hyperdrive pretty much by, I don't know, after the first few days, honestly, it just kind of kicks in.
And your
I feel,
senses really open up too, like your
hmm.
smell,
Yeah.
hearing, all of that.
Yeah, it's so incredible, really. But yeah, my senses, it's so interesting because even compared to, I feel like I've experienced this when I'm fruitarian, when I'm on primarily fruit. But once I get into salad, once I get into greens and overt fats, it starts to lessen a little bit. It's still a beautiful experience. That's kind of the way to cruise, I feel like for years. That's the lifestyle to be on. But those periods where I was either on like a fruit mono cleanse or even just fruitarian, I've experimented with that off and on. Um, your sense is just heightened to where like I'll never forget, like especially on the juice feast, just waking up in the morning and it's like you can't tell. I'm like, am I attracting more birds at my window or am I just hearing better and hearing birds that are farther away? But it seemed like I would wake up to birds chirping and it sounded so beautiful to me. Like it almost makes you emotional thinking back.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, or if I would take a walk, like a soft breeze on your skin feels like incredible. I mean, honestly, guys, I've been describing it. I've been saying like high is high. Like, in the past when I was young, I've experimented with things that make you high, like drugs or something like that. And I'd have experiences like this where like everything sounds better, music sounds better, your conversations are more like you're more like experiencing kind of ESP and you feel like you can read people's minds almost. And it's the same. Like it's just that a juice feast or meditation or raw vegan lifestyle and these are way healthier ways to experience that high and they're long term and there's no side effects, there's nothing scary about them. It's just beauty on top of beauty on top of beauty. It's like absolutely amazing. And that's probably a, a big part of the reason why I enjoy this lifestyle so much. You feel euphoric all the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
especially on juice, I think it's because you're not digesting your body, you're freeing up a lot of resources. Like I've heard like 20 to 40% of your body's like daily allotted energy goes towards digestion on average. You're freeing all that up. And so I feel like your body's using that it's sending blood to other organs and you're hearing better, you're seeing better, even like your heart and soul, like you're kind of feeling better. Your heart opens up and everything just becomes more beautiful, almost a little more sparkly, a little more magical. It sounds like,
Oh,
I know it sounds a little cliche or something, but it's really the truth. And I think that's why a lot of juice feasters, juice fasters, anyone who's experienced this, they become pretty passionate about it. Just like the raw vegan lifestyle itself. Like it
yeah.
makes you feel a certain way that you just want to share it, you know? So yeah, but that's another, yeah, my senses came alive. And then intuitively, your kind of intuition comes alive and synchronicity starts to occur more regularly, which I think it's one of my favorite subjects. I believe that as you work on your your body, your temple, and you cleanse and purify it, your connection with God, with the universe strengthens and heightens. And as that happens, as you raise your vibration and just kind of embody who you are more and more, you become more like crystalline in a way. Like
Hmm.
um, your life just starts to reflect that beauty back to you. So your physical reality reflects back that feeling state, that vibratory state that you're embodying. And so when you're feeling absolutely incredible all the time, your life just starts to get more and more absolutely incredible in physical reality too. And I mean, I really find that to be fascinating and absolutely beautiful. And I don't know, it's been a piece of like wisdom that's kind of found its way to me over the past few years. And it seems to be proving itself true with each passing day of my life. Like, it hasn't been disproven. The better I feel on the inside, regardless of whether it's due to diet and lifestyle or meditation or just self-care and mind state, all of that, mindset, that sort of thing, all of it kind of plays a part. And it just life just gets better and better the more I practice all of these you know areas of my life, basically. But so
That's
yeah,
our natural state. It's our natural
I think
state to
so.
be into in that space.
Yeah, it feels like it. I mean, it does. It really feels like this is the natural state. Everything I had experienced earlier in my life was like very unnatural, and it was unnecessary stress. And just if you think about it, when we eat foods that don't belong inside of us, it stresses your body. And when I was raw till dinner, I noticed that with my cooked meals, I felt more stressed. I felt more anxious after eating them. You're literally putting food in that has like less hydration, less water content, less hydration, yeah, oftentimes less fiber, and it has trouble moving through you. And so you're putting something in there on some level. Your body knows, like, oh boy, how long is this going to be inside of us for, and how can we get it out? And that causes some underlying stress, and I think that can easily snowball into it, additional stress, because now you're kind of on some levels, you're on some subtle level, you have more fight or flight going on, and you're kind of on edge. And you know so that might lead you to make one decision that has you snap or make an impulsive whatever, say something impulsive, and then the outcome of that can lead to another stressful situation, and it becomes kind of a downward spiral. And the opposite is true when you start to line up with our species specific diet, and with your heart and soul. And the opposite happens. You make great decisions and you have a great outcome, then you feel even better, then you do it again and again and again, and it snowballs, and you end up in this really blissful state. And you also, one of the most beautiful things is you feel empowered, as far as like you feel like you're in kind of control of yourself, like you're empowered, like, oh my gosh, I'm the one who I play a very huge role in creating all of this, based on how I care for myself on a very real level. It's like it has to do with like self-love, self-care, caring for yourself, caring for others. It's all kind of interchangeable. But as you take better care of yourself and start to honor your body in those ways, you just feel better. And then it's easier to be more loving, understanding, compassionate to every other, living, being on the planet. And I don't know. It's just a beautiful experience. It's hard to put to words what takes place, but there's definitely something magical going on there. And I'm paying attention to it. I just love like kind of studying it and experiencing these things in my day-to-day life, and kind of taking mental notes as I go, and just continuing to do what works, really.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that so much. And it's so true. I find that true for my life as well. I want to go back to one thing that you said, because immediately I heard people going in their mind, what's being in a crystalline state? So can you just say what that is for you, just for people who don't know what that means?
I mean, to me, that means just being very transparent with myself and with everybody else too. Um, like one of the greatest blessings of my juice feast was the lessening of inhibitions and self-doubt and fear and worry. I mean, it's mind-blowing how that is somehow tied into waste in our digestive tract, but I promise you, at least in my experience, it absolutely is. So as my inhibitions lessened, and I just felt more brave, more courageous, I had more faith and trust in myself, in like what comes up. So being like crystalline, like in a sense where when I felt like I was receiving divine guidance, um, just acting on it, just sharing those words that come up, instead of like feeling them come up, over processing and over analyzing them up here, and then altering them, and either just deciding not to share them, or sharing them in a different way, and just basically getting in our own way. So, so when you're crystalline, I feel like, you receive the divine guidance. And I feel like this kind of correlates to our chakras too, like our
Mhm.
energy centers.
Mhm.
But you can kind of move it, your river of life, so to speak, becomes clear, unencumbered. And so you receive that divine guidance through, like, perhaps the crown chakra, and you can visualize that. You can visualize what you're supposed to say or do. You could easily speak about it. You can go ahead and express those words, or you can just share freely without feeling like it's adding any extra stress or pressure. You can share what it is you're going to do, what your goals are, what your dreams are, and you feel confident in doing that. You can definitely feel, you can feel the alignment in your kind of heart and soul, in your like third and fourth chakras. And then like one and two, to me, and again, I'm not like a chakra master or anything, this is just what's come up with, the few books I've read and what I've heard, but those have to do with me more so with like your survival instincts, and where the, like, kind of where the rubber meets the road, where you basically take that initial divine spark, that inspiration, that divine guidance, and you actually allow yourself to act on it. And I feel like when you're like a clear channel through and through from the top to the bottom, it's just effortless to allow that to happen. And yeah, it can get pretty deep, but generally that's what it is. And so to me, that's what being crystalline is. When you clean out your river of life and you clean out your digestive tract, things just start to get really beautiful, really magical quickly as you do so. And it's really cool, but I feel like, I don't know, for me at least, it's like 3 days. Like I feel like most people have like 3 days of like immediate waste in their system. Like when I go on all fruit or all juice, 3 days are where the cravings seem to be the most challenging, because I think you're craving the stuff that you've been eating prior, because it's all right there. But after 3 days on like juice, for example, a lot of that waste is flushed out and you're way cleaner inside. And you can start, in my case, I started to feel that, like that crystalline state coming on pretty strongly after about 3 days, and I have done some work over the past 11 years. Maybe that's why, but I think for a lot of people, especially on a relatively healthy diet or lifestyle, they'll start to feel those benefits in just a few days' time. But I guess, yeah, if I had to describe it, and thanks for that question, that's an amazing question. That's pretty much how I would describe it. And then you just become a clear channel, a clear instrument of God, of the universe, of yourself, even. I feel like we're all one. I feel like we're supposed to be one with God. And
Mhm.
and so when you have that, an impulse, or I don't know, a divine inspiration of any kind, you just act on it right away. You speak on it, you act on it without hesitation. And that yields amazing results.
Yeah. The vision that I got is like you're an antenna and you're tuning in, and you're basically clearing your your mechanism for receiving all that is meant for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do. You do feel like like you're able to receive, you're very receptive. And then what you're receiving seems to be like, I don't know, very accurately correct. Like you receive
Yes.
something, you act on it in some way, and then, oh wow, very pleasant results come. And so you learn to trust that. You learn to trust it. And so that's a beautiful place to be. And I do feel like, even when I was on a less clean lifestyle and stuff years ago, I was probably like, life itself was trying desperately to get that stuff down to me. But you get distracted, when we eat stimulating foods that just make us feel numb or unconscious. I mean, it's kind of like common sense. If you're jacked up on caffeine or jacked up on anyone, there's like a lot of stimulating foods and spices and things out there where you feel like amped up. Your mind can skip past things. You might have a great idea and you kind of skip past you become anxious almost. And then the same goes when you're having something that numbs you out. If you drink a 6-pack of beer and wash it down with a pizza and pepperoni and like garbage like that, you literally need a nap after. Like, first of all, it's clear as day. Like if you're napping, you're usually not out there like making things happen. Like you're unconscious, like literally. And so, and even if you're not, you kind of I feel like a zombie almost, like subdued, just kind of like just just trying to make it to the next meal. And a lot of your senses are dulled down and numbed out. And it's kind of a downward spiral again, because you'll feel numbed out, and then you have to compensate for that with a coffee or a giant soda. And I was thinking about this too, how like fast food places and restaurants, and people in general, they automatically nowadays, they try to balance out, and they do it subconsciously, but like go to any fast food drive through, and included in the combo meal is a giant soda, which is just full of sugar, like refined sugar and caffeine, which is like a massive amount of energy. Not the healthiest form of energy, I would say. But that's why people think I feel relatively fine eating this. But no, it's because, on one hand, like the burger and fries is just taking you down way low. Then the caffeine and refined sugars like kind of balancing it out, but it's a rocky road. It is not that serene state that you're hoping for. And there's crashes, and there's like all sorts of like side effects from that and long-term ramifications. But generally, it's like, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, that's what's happening for most people. And it's just really hard to be a clear channel to receive your divine guidance when you're in one of those other states, I feel. So, yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you know, your experience on juice was very different from mine. And there are going to be people who go into a juice cleanse with a lot of that dietary stuff in their system
Yeah.
and a whole lot of other things from medications and maybe viruses or bacteria or parasites or whatever in their system, that when they do a juice cleanse there may be some downward dips of the experiences that are not comfortable. And that was a lot of what I went through, detoxing and just releasing a lot of stuff. In your experience, you did have some moments of that, but it wasn't too bad for you. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's a great question to ask. The first, I did that 4 months leading up to the juice feast, where I was like little to no, like pretty much like no overt fats. I don't even recall having any actually, but I might have had a little bit of avocado or something. But I remember mucus coming up then. Little did I know I was prepping for a juice feast, but like mucus came up then because I was so clean. It was like juice, smoothie, fruit mono meals, like really clean, but it's still allowing, plenty of fiber and stuff. And so by the time I started juicing, the first couple of weeks, even the first, like maybe the first 21 to 40 days, I remember having some mucus come up still. It's amazing how much.
Like draining from your head?
Like waking up in the morning, blowing my nose, quite a few times, and just randomly, it seems like when I get some sunshine or when I get extra sleep, I wake up and mucus comes out. It still seems like that happens occasionally. Your body goes, "Oh, these are the tools I need to cleanse. So here you go." But so mucus coming out and maybe a little bit of fatigue, nothing that lasted a while or anything, but just having moments where I feel like, oh, my body wants me to get a little extra sleep tonight or rest up. That was it for the entire juice feast. Aside from like when I tried to work out a few times and I felt like my heart was kind of revved up extra, and my intuition was saying like, yeah, we're working on some stuff inside, not a good time to be, trying to knock out pull-ups or anything. So like aside from that, um, and I did have some emotions come up here and there, especially once I got beyond a few months, like 90 to 120 days. I had some periods of a little bit of fatigue come and go then. And I could tell it was like I started to have days that would go by. It was pretty rare. I only had a handful of days where I didn't really have any bowel movements all the way through like day 200. Towards the end, it was kind of normal to go about 2 days in between like bowel movements, and they were much smaller bowel movements. But so during those times where I felt like waste was moving through and it needed the hydration, it needed a lot of juice to move through. I had some emotional kind of detox where like that's when I would kind of feel I don't even know. It wasn't ever anything like real serious with me, but I felt a little bit rocky emotionally, like just not as bright. Just my thoughts would, it was like something in my thoughts, and I really think this has to do with like parasites or something. It was like something was pulling my thoughts, trying to pull my thoughts into more of a negative place. And the first couple of times I was like, what's going on? And like, it was a little alarming, but I kind of caught on to it. You'd have a bowel movement finally. You can kind of feel like something broke free and a release occurs. And it seemed like within a few hours of that, my mood came back brighter than ever. Everything shifted. And it's almost immediately after those bowel movements, I started to realize, like, wow, it's like, I think what happened was like there was old waste kind of stuck, like old plaque in my intestines, and it starts to make its way out. And when it's re-released, I've heard like when stuff's moving through, toxins can be like reabsorbed a little bit, or into your bloodstream, and there's something going on in there that ties into our thoughts and stuff and our feelings a bit. So a little bit of that went on, which was a fascinating kind of experience in itself. And
I
then I think
remember you saying that you had some anxiety. You were experiencing some anxiety too before and leading up to that. And then once the release came, the anxiety just vanished.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, worry, anxiety, a little bit of fear, those would all kind of be intertwined. And then it would all leave, and I would feel more calm, more peaceful, more relaxed, more clear, more positive than ever. Like it was almost like, I think, like a stock that's on the rise. It'd be like,
Hmm.
start out here, you start to climb, and like, wow, I feel better than I have in 2 years. And then you might have that one of those little periods where it's like, oh, you dip down a little bit and go, oh, not quite as bright and happy today. But then you have a release, and then you go even higher than the prior high. And you're like, wow, I haven't felt this good in the past 5 years. And the same thing happens, and even higher and higher. And that took me all the way, like way up. But yeah, that was it. At the very, very end of my juice phase, I had this experience that I'm still not crystal clear on what happened, but I took a drop of an iodine supplement, and that either seemed to disagree with my body and cause a reaction, or it was I've heard some people say that supplements such as iodine can cause detox, like it's like an influx of something that your body goes, oh, and it kind of
Hmm.
triggers detox. But it led to a few days where I had an awful taste in my mouth, kind of a metallic taste that seemed to taste similar to the iodine drops. And it was only like a drop or two right under my tongue. It was amazing how little I took. But being that was 7 months in, 7 months in a week, I think. I was so sensitive to everything.
And so clean on the inside. You were like a brand
Mm.
new newborn baby coming out of
Yeah,
the womb. And yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if my body was so just sensitive that there was something it didn't like. Or I think when I look back, it was coming up to almost being an expired supplement. I'm not huge on supplements and vitamins and stuff at this point. Usually it's just B12. I had a couple other ones. Like I had zinc on hand, which I took just for a little while, I think. And I had the iodine, which I took. And my body was okay with, I would do a drop a day, maybe 2 or 3 days a week before the juice feast. And it felt fine to me. But, then again, I was eating, denser foods and stuff. So that happened. And that led to what was like the most severe detox, I guess, that last week. And, ultimately at the end of that week, I started incorporating juices again. It was interesting because I was planning to break my juice feast around day 225, because like I had said, starting at like even day 150 to 175, I started getting hints that it would be time to break relatively soon. And so I started wrapping my head around that idea. By day 200, it was really like on my mind, like, oh, I think I'm going to be breaking soon. But my body still had a very distinct kind of communication with me where it was saying, it's not time yet. It's not time yet, but just be prepared. Just know how you're going to do it. Start to research. I started to watch videos about breaking the feast from others on YouTube, which were really helpful. I'm really grateful for all of those people who share that sort of thing on YouTube. And then sure enough, like I was coming up close to the 225, and I had a feeling like I think that might be it. And then this iodine thing happened, and I actually lost a lot of my appetite. Everything tasted awful, like tasted metallic-y. So I could only bring myself to drink a couple juices a day that week, which was way different than my 7 juices a day on average. And so, yeah, I felt some fatigue. I wasn't getting the calories that my body usually wants. And I think I went 2 days on maybe a day and a half of just water, actually. Even water tasted kind of funny, believe it or not. And then just very low juices for like a good solid 5 days, if I recall. And and so that was probably the most severe detox. I think actually the within 3 hours of putting the drop of iodine under my tongue, I felt feverish. And I felt like I had, a mild fever that evening. In the morning when I woke up, I felt better from, the fever kind of symptoms. But yeah, that happened. And it's still kind of a mystery to me. Like I'm just trying to describe it the best way I could, best way I can. And I would love to know exactly what took place, but so be it. It all ended up okay. But it actually caused me, this is the way my mind was working at that time and still, but it made me think like, because I was pretty set on breaking at 225. And I actually kind of was like set the date in my mind, which is kind of rare for me. And sometimes I think that my soul or like a higher power kind of caused that to happen to have me go a bit longer, because I did have 1 or 2 bowel movements during those last 5 days that seemed like significantly old waste came out. So sometimes I think, wow, maybe that helped me go a bit longer, and then I went the full distance because of that or something. Because I did feel like if not all of the old waste had been removed, I felt darn close to it by the time day 230 came up. So it was interesting that I had a significant bowel movement or two with some older waste. And I did during that time I did two water enemas at home to stimulate. I thought that might kind of help me move through the detox more quickly, and it did actually.
During that last week?
During that last week.
Okay.
So due to that experience, I hadn't done any other enemas or colonics or anything. I didn't take any supplements to help me, to help stimulate bowel movements or anything. No psyllium husk, no bentonite clay, nothing like that. No really potent herbs or anything. Like, I did like ginger. I did some, I did some parsley and cilantro, like in my lemon ginger blast, but that was really it. So it was interesting. It also got me to do 2 enemas, my first 2 like enemas at home that last that last week. And maybe that there was some benefit there. If I had to choose, me personally, if I had to choose, and this is what I was feeling at the deepest levels of my juice feast, if I had to choose a modality to help to assist my body with moving things along, it would be an enema or like a gravity fed colonic. If I had somebody who I really trusted and felt comfortable with, that was reputable, then maybe a gravity fed colonic. That resonated with me. But like the supplements and stuff just didn't in this case. I'm curious because I have people that I trust and love, and they swear by like psyllium husk bentonite clay combo and stuff. And so I'm kind of curious, and maybe one day I'll try that and do a shorter juice feast or something. But yeah, no desire to right now. But I know you had a pretty positive experience with those, right? With the bentonite and the psyllium husk on your juice feast. Or how'd
Mm,
you feel about it?
yeah, it just felt like it just kind of made things just way too loose. Like
Oh, okay.
things were already moving
Yeah.
just fine. And then it just felt like that like exacerbated it. And so for me, it didn't seem to like, it didn't feel like it was like spending time inside me, like pulling things
Yeah.
out, which was kind of the concept, I guess, of taking that.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. Which days, which period throughout your juice phase did you say did you take those? I'm just curious. I think
It was,
people have asked me this question. That's why I'm just bringing it up, because people are curious about those supplements, and
yeah,
good time to touch
it
on it.
was, I think it was somewhere between day 30 and 45, I want to say.
Okay, cool.
And it wasn't like the full time, like I maybe did it for a couple weeks and then stopped to see like what was happening and then maybe tried it again a few
Yeah,
more times. It was, yeah,
cool.
somewhere around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I really trust your input. I feel like we're similar in that way. We're really good at dialing in to our intuition and experimenting, and you've been doing that for years. And that's why I really value everything you always share because it holds a lot of weight.
Ah, likewise, I feel the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, we are very similar in that way. We're just so in tune. We're just so in tune with our being,
Hmm.
and that's so important.
Yeah, it is important. Yep.
So did you have experiences where, like, because you were working so much, did you have experiences where you were like in the bathroom for like a long period of time at work or anything like that, like with stuff going on in your digestive system, or was it pretty like comfortable and easy in that regard?
It was comfortable and easy as far as how, the amount of time in the restroom, but the frequency of restroom visits at certain periods, and not just for bowel movements, but like going number one, for example, like you're putting a lot of fluids in your body, so
Yeah.
it's like I have like a 90-minute threshold or so. That was like the average when I was at work. It was like every 90 minutes, like clockwork, I have to go. But I like a lot of those were just number one, just quick get in, get out. And then,
That's good.
just I don't want to be too TMI or anything, but like, but regarding like more about serious bowel movements and stuff, even like when everything was flowing earlier on in the juice feast, and I was having 3, 4, bowel movements a day at least. Um, they're quick. Like you have kind of like very clear, that body mind connection is really tightly integrated. So okay, you have to go now. You go, and it's like I like the hydration helps so much. It's the opposite for me. It was like the opposite of being like constipated or anything like that. You have so much. You're doing so much to assist your body in releasing the old waste. And by the time it kind of triggered, what I was blown away by not putting any fiber in for months, and that your body's still able to release without, because you think like common sense, kind of what most people think, it's like common sense is that you put something in your mouth and you eat something and then that pushes out the older stuff. It's not really the case, is it? Because I'm putting like zero. I was straining my juices for months and months and months. Towards the end, I stopped straining some of them to allow like microscopic fibers into my body to kind of like, I thought it would be a nice way to kind of like reawaken my digestive system. Like, hey, here's a tiny little bit of particles. So I'll still juice everything, but I stopped straining it so thoroughly. At one point, it was like nut milk bags, like really finely strained. Then I started using like a wider strainer after like the 5 month mark, and slowly, gradually, like incorporating like the subtle fibers in before I actually ate something. And it's just interesting. It's more than interesting. It's mind blowing that I still had all those bowel movements for 7.5 months without fiber going in, or without any supplements or medicine of any kind, like no diuretics or anything like that. I think that's the word. Nothing to stimulate bowel movements going on. Um, I find that to be fascinating. I did do a little bit of abdominal massage, nothing. I watched a couple of videos. I think John Rose had a great one. I think maybe Nathan Mulder had a great one, if I
Hmm.
recall, and they were both excellent like resources for juice feasting. So I did that, and I was doing things like jumping jacks and taking walks and some calisthenic exercises, some pull-ups, some push-ups, some dips, some squats. And the more, I learned that the more I would get my like pump up my lymphatic system, it would help stimulate bowel movements too. So often a workout would stimulate one, or some yoga stretches would help. So it's literally like you're just finding ways to rehydrate the old stuff and get it moving. And it's quite direct. It's like it needs the hydration, the astringent, slightly acidic quality of the fruit that my body was choosing seems to really help. Stuff like lemon and lime, and even like the watermelon, and the grapes, the pineapple especially. I think there's like a lot of enzymes going on with the pineapple. It just seemed to really help move things along. So it was a really natural, organic process, overall.
How is life different now post juice cleanse? What kind of things are you noticing about your life now that are different than they were before cleansing?
Yeah, one of the things that stands out the most. I mean, I have an over guess, overwhelming sense of, I have a stronger sense of inner peace, trust in myself and the universe and the way things are unfolding for my life. I just feel really at peace with all of it. And I still feel very, very much connected, more so than I did before. And this is coming from someone who was like raw till dinner or fully raw for the past 11 years, 100% vegan, plant based the whole time, doing some work. And, so I felt pretty darn good and connected beforehand, but I feel even more dialed in and connected and clear than I ever have. My intuition, my mind body connection again is like super, super tight. And, but ultimately, like in my life, I've had a desire to share more, like on social media, on YouTube, for example. And I had a lot of those inhibitions blocking that sharing. As you and John know, we've had many discussions about this. And it's just become easier. I mean, now there's like, I don't know, I'm totally courageous about it. There's no hangups whatsoever. I mean, if anything, the only so-called hangup is like my work schedule or just having the physical time to share more. But it's not like I don't have those emotional, I don't have that like deep fear or worry or concern about what others are thinking about me or anything like that. I have a really strong desire to put my true self out there more and more and more. You know, I've never had that before. So yeah, that's probably one of the best benefits that I've experienced for myself. And man, I feel like my body is gaining weight easier than ever. So I think by cleaning out my gut, I mean, my weight's all, it kind of, within the first 3 months, maybe even sooner, I feel like within the first 40 days, my weight plummeted. I've heard people say that their weight just plummets on juice feasts. Um, and I think a big part of that is you're flushing out all the existing fiber that's filling up like 30 feet of intestine. So all that fiber is gone now. And the juices flow through you relatively immediately, I feel. So you don't have like a belly full of food and intestines full of fiber and a lot of that old waste comes out, I feel like, kind of quickly. Um, I think that's part of it. I think, obviously most people aren't consuming sodium or salt. So there's some water weight there. Your water, from what I've heard, your body hangs on to water to buffer, like, the amount of salt or sodium in your system. So
Mhm.
that's probably a huge part of it too. And I think if you're, staying active and still doing some resistance training when you feel called and stuff, I think you can kind of maintain your healthy muscle tissue and stuff for the most part. And if you're drinking enough and you're getting a variety, especially if you feel called for, towards the greens and stuff like that. Like John Rose has said, he can actually put some muscle on when he's juicing. He's kind of a juicing master, of course, but he'll do like spinach, carrot juices and stuff like that to keep his like amino acids up and that healthy kind of protein from the greens up. But it just seems like my weight's come up relatively quickly. I went down to like 132 pounds kind of soon. Like from 155, I started around 155 and went down, dropped like 20 pounds kind of quickly, like within a month and a half, if I recall. And then I was astonished to see that it stayed right there. Like it was 132, 133, 134, 132, 131. Like it was right there around 132. And I was watching it. Like I pay attention to these things. And you and I were discussing this a lot.
Yes.
It was yeah, it's very interesting, right? And I was so pleased that I'm like, okay, well, it's great to know like that's pretty lightweight for someone. I'm 6'1". It's pretty lean, but I felt amazing. And it was nice to see that my weight wasn't continuing to drop. And aside from that last week where I had that kind of wacky detox go on, where it dropped even lower temporarily just for that week and then came back up, it was very consistent. And it's already, I'm about at the 90-day mark post juice feast that I've been eating again. And it's back up to 150. And to me, it just felt like, it still feels like, I'm like, wow, I wonder, because I always wanted to be above that 155. And I've been working out consistently, different types of workouts, but pretty consistently for years. It just seemed like I had this like glass ceiling. It was hard to break through. And I think that probably had a lot to do with like mucoid plaque or just malabsorption and stuff. And I feel like I'm hoping, we'll see as time goes on, but I'm hoping I can actually continue to like, can carry on with like my resistance training, and as I kind of increase that and keep my calories where they should be, that my body will put on some more healthier body weight and just get stronger than ever. It seems like that's what's going on. I'm so happy about that. But yeah, that's been a blessing too. My digestion seems really rock solid, and I've been a little bit, I've been a little relaxed with it, with like nuts and seeds. I do soak them and stuff, but I will snack on some nuts. Like my body's been craving walnuts, for example. I'm not afraid to have a few walnuts midday, like after just having like, my watermelon juices and my smoothie. Like I don't wait till the very end of the day for like the densest food sometimes, and my body works it out. It's fine. Like, so I was really impressed with how strong my body was when it came back to refeeding, and how swiftly it was able to like reincorporate all of these healthy raw plant-based foods, back into my diet and lifestyle. I don't know, that's what's come up. Those are like the kind of the greatest benefits, and those aspects of all the benefits seem to have affected my life in the most positive ways so far. um, I'm probably forgetting a couple things, but yeah, those are what's coming up, at least for now.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned mucoid plaque, and I think there are people who are going to be curious about that. Did you experience any mucoid plaque on your juice cleanse?
Yeah, it was nothing like the pictures that you see online. They weren't really long, they weren't really dark, and they weren't really absolutely horrific looking. Everything that came out of my body looked a little newer than that old. I've seen some really, really horrific pictures online. Nothing looked like that, not even close. But the shape of some of my bowel movements, a fair amount of them resembled. So to me, I felt like, okay, that was probably something that was kind of lodged in to these pockets of my intestines. And, I've heard people say when you put in like fiberless foods and processed foods and stuff like that, it can kind of like create little bulges and like breakouts in your intestines, and then food particles can get stuck in there. That's probably what leads to like colon cancer and stuff like that. Like it's just basically old, rotting, decaying, putrefying food in there that doesn't belong in there, and it's been in there for months or years. It seemed like some of that stuff was released because the shape, they were smaller, weren't super long and super dark and slimy and nasty, but like, yeah, if you can, you can kind of picture like a fresher version, shorter, smaller version of like some of those shapes. I did experience that. And then, like I've shared, I had 4 or 5 experiences that were either some sort of parasite or it was mucus. And I've had a few friends and acquaintances with some juicing experience and cleansing experience that said, oh yeah, that's probably mucus. But they look like almost like earthworms. They were quite long, 2 or 3 feet long at least, and they weren't alive or anything. But initially, I thought, oh my gosh, that's a worm, that's a parasite. Looking back, I've had friends who have actually, I know people who pull them out and stretch them out and like analyze them more deeply, and they said it's mucus. And so it could be either one, but those were pretty gross, like pretty significant, you know, yeah, I don't know, releases, I guess you would call them.
Yeah,
But that happened. But it wasn't what the traditional mucoid plaque that some people say they've had. It wasn't like that for me in this case.
right. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, do you think everybody should do a juice cleanse, or are there some precautions that people should take before following a juice cleanse? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that is an awesome question. Uh, I really truly believe everyone should listen to their body, and it's painful to hear other people, especially in the raw vegan community. Sometimes, there's some people who are against juice feasting, juice fasting for whatever reason. Coming from somebody like myself who felt like I didn't set out to consciously do it. I wasn't doing it for egotistic reasons or I wasn't doing it for any reason other than my body simply asked me. It simply didn't want the fiber. Like if there was no such thing as juicers, I'm sure my body would have said, just eat the most water rich, water content fruit for a long time. And that would be the second best thing to do. Since we have juicers and it just made it so much easier, especially somebody who was like working a lot like I was, it's so easy to bring juices to work and just sip them. It's much easier than having a big bowl of fruit at your desk or at your job all day, which is kind of rude to everyone around you because you're eating and, sipping something. Everyone's sipping something at work.
Hmm.
Who knows? Water, coffee, tea.
Yeah.
Um, but I really truly believe that my body would have said, just go lighter and lighter. Anyway, so like having experienced that, I just feel like everyone should always listen to their body. Some people, like right now, my body wants it wants the full spectrum. It wants greens. It wants some overt fats, nuts and seeds, greens, avocado, lots of fruit. I'm still probably 70% of what I consume in a day is fruit. But at the end of the day, it's enjoying like a moderately sized salad, some hemp seeds, some soaked walnuts, some soaked pumpkin seeds, some chia seeds in my smoothies, guacamole. It's loving. I'm having more avocado. I'll have like one and a half a day on average, and I feel fine. I definitely will maybe blow my nose a couple times the following morning, but ultimately something. It's like my body is saying, like, yeah, there might be some. I don't know what the word would be, like a little bit of residue from certain overt fats, because technically, according to like Arnold Ehret's book, like the mucusless diet healing system, like avocados are a little mucus forming, nuts and seeds are mucus forming. So they may be mucus producing, but I do think that they're the way my body's kind of calling out for them after having no overt fats for quite a while, which is kind of understandable to me. Um, I just trust that there are some benefits to that outweigh like the little bit of mucus formingness of those foods. So I just feel like our bodies are infinitely intelligent, and everybody, like my wish is that everybody learns to dial in and listen to and honor their bodies, like cry for more hydration or less fiber or more plant foods, more fruit, all of these things, just to pay attention and yeah, just try to I don't know, just try to feel your your body's whatever your body's requesting, just to feel it more, just to become more receptive to those urges and nudges. And that would be a really, really that would be really wise on everyone's part. That's all that happened with me. So yeah, it's hard to say, whether everyone should or not. Definitely, I feel like everybody who does any kind of juice feast or water fast or any kind of like cleanse or fast should learn how to properly break it and how to reincorporate food in a safe way, because your digestive system does kind of go to sleep. You want to reawaken it very gracefully and gently with hydrating fruit first, and so the longer you go, the longer you should take to kind of break the feast. Like that being said, I was able to get all the way back up to like some greens and some denser fruit by the end of only a week after 230 days. I was really pleased with that. I was
That's
expecting to go
amazing.
longer. Yeah, I was really surprised. Like, I mean, when I say I incorporated greens, it was like very little. It was like, I went from like, I actually broke my feast with stone fruit with an amazing peach. And the second day was like a few pieces of stone fruit, maybe a little bit of watermelon. And then I just kept gradually increasing the hydrating fruit. But by like day 4 or 5, I think I even tried a sliver of avocado, like ripe avocado, and started to play around with like, mashing up some ripe banana and getting into the denser food. But I was like literally letting the food like dissolve in my mouth. Like again, it was like a meditation. It was like a real sacred experience for me. And my body led me to go at exactly that pace, told me exactly what it wanted me to eat, how it wanted me to eat it. But by like, I would say a week in, I was having a quarter of an avocado each day, but it was like avocado, tomato, cucumber type salad. I was putting a little bit of like maybe chopped up romaine in there, like a handful, just to see how it felt. But after 230 days on juice, my body was pretty much like, it was like, let's get back to food. It was excited to. I feel like it was working really hard on my behalf too. I felt like a big sponge, like I still do. Like my body is like, let's top up, let's get all the nutrients back. Let's rebuild for the next year, 2 years. I just want to build, build, build. Like, stronger workouts, keep my calories high, have a nice balanced raw vegan diet, and just enjoy. I'm really enjoying this whole process too. Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Now you just experienced being pretty much right in the eye of the storm of Hurricane Ian,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
The devastation in your area has been crazy. And I'm so grateful that you are safe and all your loved ones are safe. How did that experience affect you post juice cleanse? Because you'd already completed your juice cleanse. Like comparing to what, I mean, we can't really know for sure, but how do you think that experience was different for you since it happened after your juice cleanse versus if it had happened before? Do you think anything for you internally would be different had you not done the juice cleanse? Because that's like a really stressful
Yeah.
situation to experience. It's a lot of devastation and a
Yeah.
lot of stuff to go through.
Yeah. Thanks, Alicia. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be okay and that all of my friends and family are okay. And my heart goes out to everyone who lost somebody or lost their home or anything like that. But yeah, it's been an intense few weeks here, honestly, and it's transformed like the entire area for many, many miles. And it was serious. Yeah, like the eye went over kind of, I don't know, I don't know how many miles exactly, but it was just north of us. So we actually had like the eye wall like nonstop for hours and hours, like the slowest moving storms. So the eye wall is like the most intense, like on a radar. It's like the deep purple part.
Mm.
It actually seemed like what in the world? Like, yeah, it was just really, really, really intense for hurricanes. We've been here 30 years, my family, and that was by far the most intense storm we've ever seen. But I would say, first of all, like there was a moment the day before where, it was supposed to be a category 2, 3. It was supposed to kind of hit landfall significantly north of us. So leading up to it, to be honest, I had a funny feeling. And it's funny that I didn't kind of, I guess my intuition ultimately knew like I had a funny feeling, but I didn't absolutely have to act on it because obviously here I am alive and well and I did okay. But to be honest, I had a funny feeling as it was coming towards us because I always say like hurricanes are the most interesting like natural disaster because you have like a week to prepare. You have all of this notice. You're watching it come at you, and you just have to like kind of like decide: do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? So I find them very interesting in that regard compared to like fires or earthquakes or tornadoes, which are sudden. So there was that, and all the way up until the day before, I felt like and I was well, the first thing I did was I stocked up on lots of water, lots of spring water, and lots of fruit because I thought we might lose power for a couple of days, and so you know, and you don't know. It's like water was hard to find actually. Like everything disappears off the shelf. So I got lots of hydrating fruit. So I was buying water in the form of melons and things like that. A lot of citrus, a lot of melons, a lot of fruit that didn't need refrigeration that I could just load up my fruit rack in my kitchen with. So I did that. I was intuitively led to definitely do that. and and then all the way up to the day before, I felt like it's fine. Just carry on, prepare, make sure you have batteries and the lanterns and plenty of fruit and as much water as you can have on hand. And check on my dad, check on my sister, like those things. But the day before, I had a sense in the evening, like all of a sudden it shifted and I felt like you're in danger. Like it was really, really a strong feeling. And at that point, I had wished I had left town, but it was too late. Like the winds were really strong. It was dangerous to drive. And so that required a lot of faith. It required that I just stay calm. And, you know, my roommates and I did a great job of preparing, keeping each other like, I mean, it was to the point where we had like a backpack and a duffel bag each packed with our most important possessions and a change of clothing. And I, of course, had some fruit in there and some water. And if the water level rose as high as they said it might have, and it did rise that high on the coast, we're lucky. We're 8 miles off the coast, like the Gulf of Mexico, but we are only half a mile or so from the Caloosahatchee River, which is a huge body of water. But fortunately, the river didn't seem to rise as much as the Gulf did. So it was extremely, just 8 miles down the road, extremely catastrophic for the beach town there. All the beaches pretty much in the area. And fortunately for us, we just had a lot of wind damage. But our apartment held up. Cars, we had moved them into a parking garage. They held up. But it was intense enough to where we thought, for sure, we really thought water was going to come in and rise 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. Like we thought we might even, like it might be life threatening. So we had like a staircase. We're on the first level, and some of our neighbors have second floor units with outdoor stairwells. So our plan was to run into a stairwell and go up a flight of steps so we can at least be 10 or 15 feet above ground. Fortunately, it didn't come to that, but that's how severe it was. But my intuition was leading me really clearly to like take those precautions. So I feel like that was very heightened and very clear. But ultimately I did have a sense, I mean, I have a strong will to live. Like I'm at like the prime of my life right now. I've never felt better. There was this, I mean, I was like prepared to climb a palm tree and hang on for 10 hours if I needed to. Like that's how I feel. And I feel like I'm in the kind of shape. And I actually thought about this as like, people take things for granted. Sometimes like you come up against like a real world scenario where you have to like defend yourself or preserve your life in a way or do something like that, hop a fence or climb a tree or save someone's life. You want to be fit and you want to be like energetic. And so it's like, I don't know if people are forgetting these things when they let themselves just, I don't know, when they let their physical body go to the point where they can hardly walk in a mall or walk through a grocery store. And that really came to mind actually. But I was like feeling grateful that I could do those things and make my way to a rooftop or a tree or whatever, because that's kind of like what you have to do if like a tsunami type, you know, wave comes through or the water level rises, the storm surge becomes that severe. You have to just take shelter in high ground. So yeah, my intuition was super heightened, and but I did have a sense of calmness and like resolve that, like, you know what, I'm pretty well prepared, and I'm grateful for that. And so yeah, it helped in those ways. And honestly, like when the power did go out for a few days and the water went out, it's an amazing feeling to be able to be not just like survive on fruit, but I was like thriving on fruit. I would eat like an entire watermelon and then, snack on some bananas for dinner. Like it's so easy. So I really think that makes it so much easier. It was the same with like, when COVID came about, it was hard to find, certain items on the grocery store shelves, but I would laugh because all the canned goods and things would disappear. But like the produce section where I was shopping was still like overflowing.
Yeah,
So I really think it's kind of funny how that happens. But yeah, I think that helps a lot in certain times to have to be able to have a clean system and to be really efficient and to be able to fast if you need to, or just you know, to get by on just fruit meals.
absolutely. That's so great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel inclined to share about anything, your journey or where you're headed, or anything that you want to share with people you want them to know?
Let's see. I always like to, as whenever I get an opportunity to share, I always say if I had a couple pieces of advice that had to be like my last words or something, it would be for people to do some research about what our species specific diet is supposed to be and learn, what I feel like I've learned is that we're overwhelmingly frugivores, that we thrive on fruit, that we thrive on fructose and glucose and carbohydrate type fuel, and to really understand that and start to incorporate more raw fruits and vegetables into their life. because so many people are so far removed from that, and they're so disempowered, relying on systems outside of themselves to sustain them and to help keep them, well, so to speak. But it's yeah, it's what's the word I'm thinking of? It's a far inferior wellness than what I've experienced on raw living foods and on a fruit-based lifestyle, fruit-based vegan lifestyle. So I always like to say, like, the two greatest words of wisdom I could leave would be like, eat fruit and follow your heart. Those two components. And don't just eat fruit because I'm telling you to, but do the research. Read some books, guys. Like, I know
What
people
are
who
your
go.
favorite books?
That's a great question. Okay, so some of the books that helped me so much early on, like, the first one was the 80-10-10 Diet by Dr. Douglas Graham. Absolutely incredible. And if time is limited and you can't even read the book, he has an amazing website. You go to foodandsport.com and go to the FAQ part of his website. And Alicia has an amazing FAQ section on her website too, on rawsynergy.com, I believe. But those FAQs are so invaluable. But like, yeah, I that's a resource I send a lot of people who are starting out on the lifestyle, and it answers like the protein question and are we going to get enough nutrients and all of the questions that come up. He did a great job of answering in his book and on his FAQ on his website. But that's
Yeah,
one book.
that helped me so much too.
Yeah, yeah, Dr. Graham's amazing. Um, the mucusless diet healing system has been absolutely mind blowing and so empowering for me to read and reread over the years. And again, it's interesting. I have like this short version of that. If you're really, really busy, just Google mucusless food list or mucus forming food list, Arnold Ehret. And I think Professor Spira, somebody has the website out there. I think it's Mucus Free Life, Professor Spira, who's awesome, who's kind of carrying on Arnold Ehret's message. But this website has the list of these foods are acid, mucus, pus forming versus these foods that are not. And primarily the foods that aren't are like, fruits and greens. And then there's varying degrees. So like things like avocado, which is technically a fruit, is a little bit mucus forming still. But at least you have an idea. So many people suffer from asthma, chronic, colds and flus. And a lot of it just comes down to we're inundating our body with mucus forming foods. So if you find yourself blowing your nose all the time, coughing, having mucus come up in all different forms, if you have like allergies, that's one thing that went away from me, not just year one, but like the first 2 weeks on a high raw plant-based lifestyle 11 years ago. My allergies, my lifelong allergies that required me to take 2 allergy pills a day, they went away. Like one day, about 2 weeks after I started on that lifestyle, I woke up and I went to take the pills, and something inside me said, just try not to take them today. You probably don't even need them. And I did, and it was right. I didn't need them, and I've never taken them again. So do you know what that feels like? This is what I'm saying. You can read one book. You can go to the FAQ section and expand your mind a little bit, and you can heal yourself of allergies, almost overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So many people suffer. I know people who go to sleep afraid that they're not going to wake up in the next day because of asthma. Are my airway's going to close up? Am I going to have an asthma attack? That's a horrible feeling. I would imagine that most people out there, you know, would prefer to take the time to learn something new, open their mind up, open their heart up in order to heal that, allow their body to heal from something like that. And believe me, in my experience, I'm going to remain humble and just say, in my experience, it was all my diet and lifestyle that was causing that for me. And it went away so quickly. So it's an amazing feeling to know that you're in control of that. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you had a week where you had some extra nuts and seeds and avocado, or maybe you went to a restaurant and you splurged. So you're going to expect a little mucus, and then you could clean up and you can like let the mucus go away. Like, you actually feel in control and you feel empowered, like you're in control of your level of health and vibrancy and energy. And so I just want everyone to have that feeling. But so the 80-10-10 diet book, Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System book, and these are like my big three that got me off to the races, was why am I blanking? Dr. Robert Morris, the Detox Miracle Source book was amazing. Anything Dr. Morris, you can just search for him on YouTube, and he has videos where he's just answering questions for like hours. So there's free resources like that out there that'll just blow people's minds and give them a really good idea of what it takes to heal from certain ailments that are, chronically affecting so many millions of people right now. And those three books were my favorite. As time went on, and I started to really appreciate fruit, like Anne Osborne's book, which, um, oh my gosh, is it like Fruitarianism, the path to Eden? I think
Yes, I think that's right.
it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book for anybody who's feeling called to like really high fruit plant-based lifestyle, or who is currently a fruitarian and has questions. That is an incredible resource and a beautiful, beautiful book to read. Those are okay. And last one, so five, and one for especially for anyone who's a little more into like the spiritual side of things. The Essene Gospel of Peace is magical. I don't know, book one of the Essene Gospel of Peace that you can find for free online. There's PDFs floating around. You can find the Kindle version. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful, beautiful book. Book one in particular resonates with me. That's where the majority of like the nutritional advice. It all pretty much lines up with like a naturopathic, raw vegan lifestyle, but it just resonates to me. It resonates as something that's got a lot of truth. Like it holds a lot of weight. I kind of base the way I live on that book, I would have to say. It was just interesting. I found that a little bit later on. I think Dan McDonald, Life Regenerator, bless him, he shared it in one of his videos, how that book came into his life and how powerful it was. And as soon as he said those words, I knew I had to read it. And when I read it, it had the same effect on me. And so I'm really grateful for him for mentioning that book. And it pops up here and there. A lot of people are mentioning it nowadays, but yeah, that's incredible. Pretty incredible read. Yeah, those are my favorites. There's so many out there, but those are like my top five, I would say, that I personally enjoy rereading time and time again.
Yeah. And I think you started to say something about you had people who would, correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like you were going to say something about how people would say something about how much fruit sugar you're eating. Was that where you were going to go?
Um,
Maybe not, but I
well,
just
I
wanted
know
to.
yeah, I mean, I work with people, I have friends and relatives, and it blows my mind how many people are so terrified of fruit, terrified of sugar, which is understandable if it's refined and if it's in an ingredient such as like a cake or a cookie, of course.
Mhm.
But so many people are afraid of fruit. Um, yeah, I had someone tell me that their significant other warns them all the time that bananas make you fat. Don't eat too many bananas, which is terrible to do in the first place. Like say that to somebody close to you. But like it's not the case. I'm like, and I have people who are really, really, really close to me. I've lived with, I've been great friends with, or relatives with, and I just feel the underlying concern for carbohydrates and for fruit sugar, and but yet they see me like 11 years deep eating almost entirely fruit. And I think I don't know if I punch things in the chronometer, I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but like a few hundred, 350 or so grams of sugar a day, maybe, on average, and like 700 or 800 grams of carbs a day. That's a typical day for me. And
Mhm.
again, that's from raw fruits and vegetables, mostly fruit. But I'm as lean as I've ever been, and I'm able to perform better than I ever have. And like my physique, everything is better now than it was when I was like much younger than this. And so, best shape of my life, feeling better than ever on that kind of lifestyle. So what blows my mind is somebody can witness you day in, day out doing it and still have doubt and hesitation. And not only that, they're doing the opposite with the high protein, high fat, meat based, whatever, and they're not getting the results. And it's like, how long does this have to go on for before something clicks? But that being said, I just do my thing lovingly, just spreading seeds I used to love a book when I was a kid, Johnny Appleseed, and I sometimes I think I'm Johnny Appleseed, like instead of like, and I would spread apple seeds out there. Like I do actually throw, pits and seeds like wherever I can find soil. But like as far as like spreading seeds of like knowledge and wisdom and all that I've learned throughout my life, I think that's the best thing you can do is lead by example and just continue to do what makes you thrive and come alive, and then just always drop pearls of wisdom and seeds. And that's become like a built-in component to the raw vegan path. Within the first couple of months, like as soon as my allergies healed, for example, I couldn't shut up about it. I just can't keep quiet about it. It's become something that it's become one of my greatest callings, my greatest passions, and my greatest joys, just sharing this message with the world, with everybody. And that seems to be part of the deal. Like you've been healed, and I'm sure, I know you feel the same way, but you know, you've been healed by the grace of others and by, gosh, your own intention and desire to heal yourself and to love yourself more and to live your best life. And a lot of that isn't selfish. It's you want to live your best life so you can help others around you live their best life, or take care of people with children, people with, significant others, people with parents, elderly parents. Like, I mean, everyone in the world should want to lead their best life and be as healthy and as vibrant and as strong and powerful as they can so that they can help everyone else around them, right? So it's
Yeah.
actually really selfish to not take care of yourself and to have a disregard for your own body, your own living temple, your own planet, the animals. Like it's really quite selfish the other way. Self-love is not selfish. It's beautiful, and it allows us to love everybody else that much more and take care of them that much more.
Yeah. Beautiful. So you are starting to share so much more on social media now, and you have a beautiful new website that you've created. So I want people to be able to find you in different places. So I'll put all your links down below this video so people can find you. But if you want to just share like your Instagram and your website and all of that, how do people find you?
Oh, cool. Thanks, Alicia. And I do love connecting with everybody. It's one of my favorite joys, like things like this, connecting with you, connecting on YouTube. I love connecting and sharing, especially sharing this message with everybody. So please reach out. And I try to answer everyone's questions. It's becoming more difficult, as I connect with more and more people, but I'll always do my best. And I plan to do some like FAQs and go live on Instagram and stuff more, so anyone with questions can just like tune in and ask. But so yeah, on Instagram, which is probably where I'm at the most right now, it's Raw Alchemy, raw.alchemy. There's like a period between raw and alchemy. And on YouTube, it's Raw Alchemy without the period, just 2 words. And yeah, I did vlog my juice feast. I recorded, I think, 53 total vlogs, and I'm only going to probably upload maybe 20 or so of the most valuable vlogs, because it's kind of a it's kind of a lot to actually go through, edit, and upload them all with my schedule right now. But I'm slowly but surely doing that. I've got a few up already, and the website is in the works. It's currently, like, I think like today right now it's down, but it'll be online soon enough at least. And that's the sort of thing I feel like, just putting a site up with, like, my bio, maybe a way to reach me. And a big question I get is like what kind of tools I use in the kitchen and things like that. So I think I like the idea of like some kind of storefront, like just like an Amazon affiliate store, just to send people to like what I really appreciate using the most, like as far as which brands and which tools. So it'll start out kind of like bare bones like that, but eventually websites are great because you can build them out as time goes on, and I can add more tools and resources, and it's just a nice extension of everything I've learned, I feel. So, but that might take a little bit of time. But yeah, and that's just experiencerawalchemy.com. So yeah, that's pretty much it right now. Those are the ways to reach me. Facebook, if anybody. I generally, accept friend requests from people I actually know on Facebook, because you kind of have a limit there, and I kind of use that for more like family and close friends. But but feel free to reach out then. If we've met in person, you feel a really strong connection, just shoot me a message, reach out on Facebook if you'd like. Whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. I love everything that you shared today. This was such an awesome conversation, and just the kind of thing that in the past when we've talked about stuff, I would be like, I wish we would have recorded it. And now here it is for everyone to hear. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm super excited about this, and hopefully we can do this again very soon.
Yeah, Alicia, all the feelings are mutual. I'm so glad we allowed it to happen too. And like you said, it's been like a long time kind of in the making, but this was the perfect time. And yeah, it's been an absolute joy connecting with you as always. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody you know who would resonate with this message, or someone who really needs to hear it right now. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. Definitely check out John's channels and his Instagram and website, and subscribe to him, follow him. He puts out amazing content. You will just absolutely love everything he shares. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Alicia.
Of course.